Welcome to another episode of Management Unplugged by GR. Have you ever worked in an organization, and it could be anything, a startup, a huge global company, that seems like it should be firing on all cylinders? I mean, they've got brilliant people, maybe even a fancy mission statement on the wall.
Right next to the coffee machine, usually.
Exactly, and clear goals, ambitious objectives, but then, day to day it just feels stuck. Or there's this constant low-level chaos, maybe just that feeling you're pushing a massive rock uphill every single day.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling is incredibly common. And I think it often comes down to a basic misunderstanding of what an organization really is. Leaders sometimes act like they're just managing separate departments, marketing over here, finance over there.
It's separate little machines.
Precisely. When really the most effective leaders act more like organizational architects.
I like that. Organizational architects. Because an architect doesn't just focus on the plumbing, right?
No way.
You could have the best plumbing ever, but if the structure doesn't line up with the wiring, the whole building's got problems.
You can't just optimize one little bit on its own.
Exactly right. And the leader's job, the architect's job, is to design that whole blueprint, the operating system, if you will, that guides how everyone behaves towards those shared goals. But, that's where it gets tricky. That's the dilemma.
Okay, let's make this real. Think about a top-tier consulting firm. Their whole strategy, their big selling point, is amazing client service.
Yeah.
That's their edge. So the CEO wants to double down on that. What's the first thing they usually do?
Well, they might look at it and think, people. We need better people. So, boom, massive focus on recruitment. Get those specialists in.
Or
maybe they think it's motivation, so they tweak the compensation. Big bonuses tied to client satisfaction scores.
Or training.
Or invest millions in training programs, leadership development. The point is the leader has to pick somewhere to put their energy. But here's the catch. If they only change one thing, say, just the training, then the other parts, like the structure or the bonus system.
Exactly. They might actually fight against that change. They resist it.
Yeah, that siloed one-off change almost never works, does it? You bring in some amazing new tech system, spend a fortune, and 6 months later, nobody's using it because the old reward system doesn't encourage it, or maybe actively discourages it.
It happens all the time.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We're looking at the 7S model. It's a framework that's been around for a while, but honestly, it's incredibly relevant for designing organizations, figuring out why things aren't working, and managing change properly.
Yeah, our mission today is really to get beyond just listing the 7 S's. We're going to unpack strategy, structure, systems, staffing, skills, style, and shared values. But crucially, we want to show you how to use this thing as a real diagnostic tool.
The blueprint, to make sure all those parts are actually working together, not pulling in opposite directions.
That's the goal, making sure they reinforce, not undermine each other.
All right, so let's get into the background a bit. This 7S thing didn't just appear out of thin air, did it? It came from some pretty serious research trying to answer that age-old question.
The million-dollar question. What is the single best way to organize a company for success? Everyone wanted that magic formula.
And what did they find after all that searching?
Well, the big insight, which was actually kind of revolutionary back then, was, wait for it, there is no single best way to organize.
So much for the magic formula.
Exactly. It flew in the face of all that industrial era thinking. The idea that you could just copy the org chart of Company X and get the same results. They found success is totally dependent on context.
Context dependent.
Yeah.
That's key. So the perfect structure for, an oil company.
It's going to be totally wrong for a fast fashion brand.
Right. So success isn't about finding the structure. It's about achieving the right kind of fit.
Precisely. Fit. And the research pointed to 2 absolutely crucial types of fit that any effective organization needs.
Okay, what's the first one?
First is external alignment. This just means the organization has to fit its environment. The competitive landscape, the regulations, the markets it serves, how complex its supply chain is.
So if the outside world changes, maybe some new tech comes along that makes speed more important than your old quality focus?
Your organization has to be able to shift and realign to match that new reality. Or you get left behind.
Makes sense.
Mm.
And the second type of fit?
The second pillar, and this is really the heart of the 7S model, is internal alignment, or just fit, as they called it. This is recognizing that the organization isn't just a bunch of parts bolted together. It's a complex system.
Like an ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. And effectiveness, true high performance, only happens when all 7 elements of that system are consistent with each other, when they actually reinforce each other.
Okay, so list them again for us. The Magnificent Seven, organizational style.
All right. Strategy, structure, systems, staffing, skills, style, and shared values.
Got it. And you're saying the real power isn't just knowing what they are.
No, not at all. The power is using the model to diagnose the degree of fit between them. If they're pulling in different directions, if they're misaligned, well, that's where you get that friction, that chaos, that feeling of pushing the rock uphill we talked about earlier.
It gets you past just treating symptoms, right?
Mhm.
Like, if sales are down, the knee-jerk reaction is fix the sales strategy.
Always.
But a 7S look might show the strategy is actually okay. The real problem might be the compensation system, that's systems rewarding people for hoarding leads, which completely torpedoes the strategy.
Exactly. It's the misalignment that's the killer. That's why we need to really understand what each S means. Okay, so we usually group these 7 into 2 buckets. It's mainly based on how easy, or maybe how directly, management can change them. We start with what are called the hard S's.
Hard S's. Sounds tough.
Well, they're strategy, structure, and systems. They're hard not because they're difficult conceptually, but because they're relatively tangible. You can write them down, draw them on a chart, change them with a management decision or new software.
They're the levers you can pull more directly, the more concrete stuff.
Right. They're often the first place leaders look when they want to make a change. Hashtag tag 2.1 strategy.
Okay, first up, strategy. Seems obvious, maybe, but in this 7S world, what's the specific angle?
Well, it's the anchor, really. Strategy isn't just a wish list. It's the specific set of actions the company takes to get and keep an edge over the competition. It's how it manages its relationship with that external environment we talked about.
It's the company saying, this is how we're going to win, this is how we create unique value.
Exactly. And when you look at strategy through the 7S lens, it usually boils down to one of 2 main paths, or maybe some mix of the two.
Path 1, be the cheapest.
Pretty much. Aiming for operational excellence. Low-cost production, low-cost delivery. You win on price because you're just incredibly efficient at what you do, ruthlessly efficient.
Okay. Path 2.
Differentiation. Making your product or service stand out, maybe through unique features, amazing quality, or some really innovative way you sell or support it that others just can't easily copy.
The key thing, though, is that the strategy has to be clear, because everything else, all the other S's, needs to line up behind it, right?
Absolutely critical. If your strategy is low cost, that tells you a lot about the other S's. Your structure probably needs to be lean. Your systems have got to be laser focused on cost control. Your staffing might emphasize efficiency skills.
Whereas if you're going for rapid innovation, maybe your structure needs to be super flexible, your systems need to allow for quick changes.
Precisely. So when you're diagnosing this S, the questions are, what really is our source of advantage? Not what we wish it was, but what is it today? And what are the absolute must-win strategic priorities that everything else has to support? Hashtag tag 2.2 structure.
All right, next hard S structure. This is the org chart, right?
Yeah,
Boxes and lines.
that's part of it, yeah. It's the formal wiring diagram. But it's more than just who reports to whom. It's how tasks are specialized and divided up, where decision-making power sits, and crucially, the formal ways different parts of the company coordinate.
Coordination. This is where that classic tension comes in, isn't it? You group people by function, all the engineers together, all the marketers together to build deep expertise.
Which is good. You want that expertise.
But then, when you need them to work together on launching new product, suddenly the engineers and the marketers are speaking different languages. They can't coordinate.
That coordination gap, that friction, is often built right into the structure itself. Specialization creates silos, creates boundaries. Structure is supposed to provide the bridges, reporting lines, teams, matrix setups.
Understanding the structure tells you a lot about whose voice gets heard the most, where the real power lies.
Definitely. Okay, let's quickly run through the basic forms because it's not just one size fits all. Each structure has its pluses and minuses.
Regulamanus.
Okay, the most basic is the functional structure. Grouping by activity, R&D, manufacturing, sales, finance, you know the drill.
Works well when you're small or the world isn't changing too fast.
Exactly. Great for deep knowledge, efficient use of resources within functions. But as you grow or things get dynamic, it gets slow. Getting those functions to work together often needs someone high up to step in, which bogs things down.
So when that happens, companies often shift too.
The divisional structure. Now you group activities around an output. Could be a product line, maybe a geographical region, or a specific customer segment. Each division often gets its own set of functions, like its own marketing team, its own sales force.
The big plus there is speed, right? A division can react fast to whatever's happening in its specific little world.
Huge advantage in responsiveness. But there are downsides. You lose some economies of scale. You might have duplicate IT departments, for example. And, maybe more importantly, you can get fierce competition between divisions.
Oh, yeah. You see salespeople from the U.S. division and the Europe division tripping over each other trying to sell to the same global customer. Not a good look.
Total confusion for the customer. Which leads us to the structure that tries to get the best of both worlds.
Ugh, the infamous matrix structure. Everyone loves to hate the matrix. Too many bosses, meetings that never end.
It definitely has a reputation. The idea is to combine functional authority for expertise with divisional or project authority for market focus. So you might report to your engineering boss and a product manager.
Sounds complicated.
It is. Potential benefit, you get that deep expertise plus market focus, potential cost, massive conflict, confusion over who's actually accountable. The 7S analysis shows it really only works if two things are present.
Are they?
First, the managers involved have to genuinely trust each other and be committed to making it work. Second, the systems need to be really clear about how that dual reporting works, how conflicts get resolved.
Right.
Without that trust and those clear systems,
It descends into chaos and politics.
total gridlock. So yeah, it's complex, maybe fragile.
Okay.
Okay, last one. The network structure. Very modern, very fluid.
This is more like loose collections of teams, right? Partnerships, outsourcing.
Exactly. Small, often temporary, semi-autonomous groups. Boundaries are fuzzy. Authority isn't based on your title on the org chart. It's based on your expertise, your knowledge. This is what you see in companies facing really fast, unpredictable change.
Advantage, super adaptable. Disadvantage, seems like it could be stressful for the people involved.
Bingo. The research highlights that. While the organization is flexible, the individuals often feel confused, stressed. Who's my boss today? What's my career path? Who's actually responsible for this project? It can be exhausting. Structure is always a trade-off. Hashtag 2.3 systems.
Okay, so we've got strategy, the what and why. We've got structure, the who reports to whom. Now, systems. This feels like the how, the engine room.
That's a great way to put it. Systems are all the processes and procedures, formal and informal, that manage the place day to day. Think management control systems, budgeting, how resources get allocated, performance reviews, rewards, information systems, all that plumbing.
The daily reality.
Exactly. And arguably, systems might be the most impactful hard S. Why? Because they dictate what people get measured on, what they get rewarded for, and therefore what they actually pay attention to. Structure defines authority. Systems define attention.
This is where you find those classic organizational pain points, isn't it? Like that nightmare expense system that needs 5 signatures for a coffee.
We've all been there.
That system, even if it's just annoying, it's focusing managers' attention on tiny cost control, not on, say, big strategic opportunities.
Perfect example of a system driving behavior, maybe even undermining what you want people to do. Another classic is the cross-functional team problem.
Right. Management sets up the team, structure, tells them to collaborate, strategy.
But the compensation systems still pays everyone based only on how well they did within their own department silo.
So the system is literally telling you not to collaborate, even though the strategy says you must.
It actively punishes the behavior the strategy needs. And guess what usually wins?
The system.
Yeah.
Every time. Because that's what hits the paycheck.
That's why big change projects like re-engineering efforts almost always fail unless they tackle the systems head-on. You need new reward models, different ways information flows, maybe change how capital gets allocated to support the new way of working.
You can redraw the org chart in an afternoon, but if the old systems keep chugging along,
they'll just pull everything back to the way it was. Systems carry the organization's momentum, its inertia.
So diagnosing systems means asking things like, do we have the right ways to track what's happening outside customer feelings, competitor moves, and internally, what reports, what dashboards, what meetings does top management really pay attention to?
Because that tells you the real operational priorities, no matter what the glossy annual report says.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Let's shift gears. We've covered the hard S's: strategy, structure, systems, the things you can more easily point to and change directly. Now we move to the soft S's.
The squishier stuff. Staffing, skills, style, and shared values. Exactly. Now, these are definitely harder to change directly. You can't just issue a memo and change the company culture, right? It takes much longer. But, and this is critical, the research is incredibly clear. The companies that achieve real, lasting competitive advantage pay just as much, if not more, attention to getting these soft factors right.
This is where the human element really comes in. The psychology, the capabilities, the character of the organization. Stuff that doesn't change overnight. Hashtag, tag 3.1 staffing.
Yeah.
Okay, first, soft S staffing. This is just about hiring people, right?
It starts there, but it's broader. It's about the people themselves, yes, their backgrounds, their potential, their competencies. But it's also the organization's whole approach to how it finds, selects, integrates, trains, and manages the careers of those people.
So if companies really mean it when they say people are our most important asset,
Then staffing is fundamental. Effectiveness hinges on who you bring in and, just as importantly, how you develop them. The best companies see recruitment not just as an HR task, but as a core strategic activity. They obsess about finding the right fit, culturally and skill-wise.
and it doesn't stop at hiring. It's about ongoing development.
Continuous cultivation, exactly. It's not just formal training courses. It's things like strong mentoring programs to pass on that crucial tacit knowledge, and it's about using stretch assignments.
Putting people in roles just beyond their current comfort zone.
Right, to force them to grow new capabilities quickly. And this has to link back to strategy. If your strategy needs, say, more global leaders, then your staffing system, including career paths and development programs, needs to actively support international experience.
So diagnosing staffing isn't just counting heads. It's looking at things like, what are the typical career paths here? Do we grow our own leaders or mostly hire from outside? Where does the top talent tend to cluster in R&D? Sales, finance.
That tells you a lot about what the organization really values and where it puts its developmental energy. Hashtag 3.2 skills.
Okay, next up, skills. We talked about individual skills under staffing. How is this different?
This is about the organization's distinctive competencies. The capabilities that reside in the company as a whole, not just in individuals. These are things built up over years, embedded in practices, systems, technology. It's the organizational muscle memory.
The corporate superpowers. Like everyone knows Toyota is amazing at lean manufacturing, or maybe 3M at innovation. It's baked into how they operate.
Exactly. Those are organizational skills. And this brings up a really interesting paradox. The opportunity constraint paradox.
Okay.
Skills are huge opportunities when you can apply them to new areas. Think about 3M again. They mastered adhesives, a core skill, and then applied it everywhere, from Post-it notes to industrial tapes.
So the skill opens up new doors.
Right. But those same skills can become major constraints, major liabilities when the market shifts. Imagine your company is world-class at precision engineering, amazing quality control.
Okay.
But suddenly, the market wants cheap, fast, maybe slightly disposable products. Your deeply ingrained quality skills, they actually get in the way. They become what some call core rigidities.
Wow. So the thing that made you successful now prevents you from adapting.
Precisely. It stops you from learning the new skills you need. So organizations sometimes have to not only learn new things, but actively unlearn the old habits, the old skills that used to work. And that's incredibly hard.
So diagnosing skills means asking, what are we truly distinctively good at doing as an organization? Forget the marketing fluff. And maybe more importantly, what new skills do we absolutely have to build, or what old ones do we need to dismantle to compete effectively 5 years from now? Hashtag 3.3 style.
Okay, style. This one can feel a bit nebulous, but it's crucial.
Yeah, is it just about whether the CEO is formal or wears jeans?
That can be part of it, symbolic even. But style is broader. It includes the leadership style of the top team, yes, but also the overall operating style of the entire company. It's the norms, the patterns, how work actually gets done day to day, the unwritten rules.
The vibe, the behavioral fingerprint, you called it earlier.
That's it. You look at observable patterns. How does the management team spend its time? Are they locked in endless internal meetings, or are they out walking the floor talking to customers?
Where's their focus? Inside the company walls, on politics and procedures, or outside on competitors and customers?
Exactly. And how are decisions made? Is it super analytical, data-driven,
Yeah.
or more intuitive, based on experience, maybe valuing speed over perfect analysis? Is it top-down command and control or highly participatory?
And the little things matter here too, don't they? The symbolic stuff.
Hugely important. Does the CEO have a massive corner office on a separate floor, or do they sit out with everyone else? How are big decisions announced formal memos or quick informal chats? Even things like job titles or people associates or team members versus just employees? Do executives eat in a separate dining room? How often do they personally talk to key customers?
All those little signals add up to create the overall style, setting the tone for everyone. Hashtag tag tag tech 3.4 shared values.
And that brings us to the very center of the 7S model, shared values, sometimes called superordinate goals.
The heart of it all.
Pretty much. This isn't the long list of values you might see on a poster. It's the small set of core fundamental ideas, often unwritten, even unspoken, that give the organization its purpose, its meaning. They provide stability when everything else is changing.
The guiding principles that really matter beyond the policy manual. What the company stands for, deep down.
Right. It could be an absolute commitment to safety or ethical conduct or maybe customer obsession or innovation. These are the things that guide decisions in tough situations, the things that hold the place together.
So analyzing this isn't about reading the mission statement. It's about observing behavior again.
Absolutely. What issues actually get the most top management attention? Time, resources, energy. Do they consistently focus on short-term profits, or are they genuinely investing for the long haul, even if it hurts this quarter's numbers?
How do people inside describe what makes the company different? If you ask them what comes up consistently, is it we really care about our people, or we never compromise on quality, or we always find a way?
Do people, from the newest hire to the CEO, seem to have a common understanding of why the company exists, what its vision really is? That shared understanding, that bedrock of values, is the core of the culture. And it's probably the hardest thing for any competitor to replicate.
Okay, we've walked through all 7 S's. Strategy, structure, systems, the hard ones. Staffing, skills, style, shared values, the soft ones. Now, the payoff. Using this thing, because like you said, it's not a checklist, it's a diagnostic tool.
Exactly. Its real power comes when you use it to analyze the fit, or lack thereof, between those elements. The basic idea is simple. If the organization is effective, the S's are aligned. If it's chaotic, underperforming, stuck, then you've got misalignment somewhere.
So the diagnosis is about finding the clashes. Where does the strategy run headlong into the systems? How does the structure maybe undermine the development of needed skills?
That's precisely the process. Let's use those examples we touched on earlier, but really trace the cause and effect of the misalignment.
All right, first, the retail company. Their strategy, compete on amazing personalized customer service. Great goal.
Noble goal. But then you look at their systems. Specifically, how they reward local store managers. It turns out they're rewarded only for hitting budget targets and minimizing labor costs. Service metrics, not really measured, certainly not rewarded.
So the system is sending the exact opposite message to the strategy, and the style makes it worse.
It does. The leadership style is very top-down, very centralized control. So a frontline employee sees a chance to deliver amazing service, maybe bend a rule, authorize a return, spend extra time with someone.
They don't have the power to do it.
Oh,
Their hands are tied by the centralized style.
exactly. The result, employees know the strategy says service first, but their paycheck systems and their boss's focus style are screaming, hit the budget target. The service skills they might have, staffing skills, are basically neutralized by the misalignment.
It's organizational self-sabotage built right into the design. They want good service, but the blueprint makes it almost impossible to deliver consistently.
Okay, example 2, the investment bank. Right. Their strategy, build deep, broad client relationships, be the one-stop shop, bonds, equities, cash management, everything, a full service partner.
Some smart, but
But their systems, particularly the reward system, are totally out of whack with that strategy. People are rewarded based purely on the performance of their individual department.
so the bond desk gets bonuses based only on bond revenue.
Yeah.
The equity desk only on equity revenue.
Correct. So what happens when a bond trader has a great client who could also use cash management services?
Uh-oh. They have zero incentive to pass that lead over, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't help their numbers. Might even hurt them if the client shifts some business.
Precisely. They hoard the client relationship within their silo. The reward system actively prevents the cross-selling and collaboration needed to be a full-service partner. The system fights the strategy.
And you mentioned there's a deeper soft S issue there, too.
Yeah. The diagnosis often reveals layers. In that bank example, the staffing approach and the dominant skills were also misaligned. They hired and promoted based on deep technical expertise within a silo.
So Brilliant bond traders, brilliant equity analysts.
But very few people with the skills or even the incentive, because of the systems, to manage complex, cross-functional client relationships. The whole way they sourced and developed talent, staffing skills, reinforced the silos, working against the strategy.
It shows how vital this model is for managing change. Because the natural tendency is just to focus on one thing, right? Change the comp plan or redraw the org chart.
Managers often grab the lever they're most comfortable with or the one that seems most obvious, and they ignore how it connects to everything else.
And if you change the structure, but the shared values and the leadership style are still stuck in the old ways.
The change won't stick. The organization's culture, its inertia will just pull it back eventually. It snaps back like a rubber band.
So leaders need that holistic view. They have to see the whole system.
See the whole system, understand the interconnections, and figure out which changes across multiple S's will have the biggest positive impact. You push on structure, you likely need to adjust systems and maybe invest in new skills and signal a change in style, all concurrently.
So there's no magic starting point. The diagnosis tells you where the biggest misalignments are, and that's where you focus your energy, even if it's one of the harder soft S's.
Exactly. If your core skills are totally obsolete for where the market's going, tinkering with the org chart isn't the main answer. You have to tackle the skills gap, even though it's slow and difficult.
Which brings us back to that hard versus soft challenge in managing change.
It does. Leaders often start with the hard S's: strategy, structure, systems, because you can change them more quickly, by decree almost. Reorgs, new policies, new IT.
The tangible stuff.
Right. But the research consistently shows that the changes that create real, sustainable advantage, the ones that define the truly great companies, involve mastering and realigning the soft S's: staffing, skills, style, shared values.
That takes more time, more leadership commitment, more patience.
A much deeper commitment. But without aligning those softer elements, the changes made to the hard S's often just fade away or don't deliver the expected results.
Hashtag tag tag outro.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really hammers home a key point. Organizational effectiveness isn't about finding some static, perfect structure or system. It's a constant balancing act.
A continuous process, yeah. Achieving and maintaining alignment, both internally, getting those 7 S's working together, and externally, making sure the whole thing fits with a market that's always changing.
It's about making sure every single part of that organizational blueprint is pulling in the same direction, reinforcing that core strategy.
And the 7S model is like your compass for that journey. It helps you see where the friction is, where the hidden roadblocks are, where things are out of sync, but it's not autopilot.
Needs judgment, needs careful thought. Absolutely. It points the way, highlights areas for action, but keeping that alignment. That requires constant vigilance, continuous reassessment as the world keeps shifting around you, because things will inevitably start to drift out of alignment again.
Okay, here's a final thought to chew on then. We've established that alignment is crucial for success today. But could an organization become too perfectly aligned, so tightly optimized for the current environment, that it's very perfection, its lack of internal friction makes it rigid, unable to adapt when tomorrow's market demands something completely different? Is perfect alignment today a recipe for failure tomorrow?
That's a very sharp question, something definitely worth pondering as you look at your own organizational blueprints.
See you later.